for joining this morning. It's just a little after 8 a.m. It's Friday, April the 11th. We're here for the Charleston Race Week 2025. We are very excited to be giving you these weather briefings daily, myself with Ed, and we also have Scott Herman as a guest today. Go ahead and get the slide deck started here. Like I said, my speakers today, Ed Baird, Hall of Famer, legend I put there. Of course, we all know Ed is. And then myself from SailFlow. Housekeeping rules today. We were going to use the chat window for Zoom, but I think we're just going to be doing Facebook Live to eliminate some of the confusion and the technical aspects. So if you have questions on Facebook Live, Joy will be watching that if you have any questions or commentary. So I'll make sure to update the slide deck for that. So please feel free to chime in on there and we'll answer any questions you have. Shameless plug real quick for us at SailFlow. If you haven't tried the app, it is a free download. We do have free pro membership access for this entire race from yesterday morning to Monday morning. So that way you have access to all the data, the weather sensors, our ProNet sensors and HerNet sensors in the area. So that way you have all the up-to-date data. They update every 5 minutes with lulls, gusts, and averages. So enjoy. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball over to Scott Herman. He's here with Spectrum Sailing. I know my son's done this camp a couple of times, Scott, and absolutely loved it. This is a great program for kids with autism and other special needs on the spectrum as well. With that said, I'll go ahead and exit screen. Well, actually, no, I'm going to go up, let you just speak about it right here on the deck.
Thank you, Shea, and I appreciate you guys sharing a little bit of time with us. Yes, Spectrum Sailing is the only national autism sailing program. This year we'll be in 12 cities. Our schedule is posted. We'll have over 250 autistic kids sail with us this year, and all of our programming is free. We know that the sailing community is extremely strong, and the only way we can offer those types of programs for these kids nationally is through support and donation from sailors and people in the community. So take a look at the schedule. If we're near you, we'd love to have you come out and volunteer. And we'll always love to welcome anyone on board that wants to support and sponsor us as we move forward. So I don't want to slow down the weather forecast, but feel free to follow us at spectrumsailing.org and reach out if we're near you. And if you'd like to, if you care about our mission and want to jump on, let us know.
Thank you very much, Scott. I love it. This camp has grown. I've watched it. It went just from Charleston and branched out, and you can already see some of the camps are full. So make sure if you have a child on the spectrum to go ahead and apply now, because these things fill up pretty quick. So thank you very much, Scott. And I know you got to get going, so have a good day, and we'll see you back tomorrow morning for one more blurb. Okay, back to the race. Daily start, stay pursuit class. Warning is 9:30 a.m. offshore circle 5s, 12 o'clock inshore circles 1, 2, 3, 11 o'clock a.m. Real quick, looking at the circles in the harbor. We're on the South Channel, just north of James Island. The offshore course 2, I pulled this right from Yacht Scoring, so circle 5 out offshore near Rattlesnake Shoal. With that said, I'm going to stop share and actually, I'm going to just exit out of this and go right into the weather. Pull my draw tool over. And this is the WPC surface map that you're looking at here. What I talked about last night in the skippers meeting was this low pressure that's developing over Western North Carolina, right? So it has a cold front that's been sweeping towards the area. We had a trough overnight, which brought a line of thunderstorms. Some of you may have heard a boom or two. It was a very thin line. It wasn't as thick and robust as earlier anticipated. And behind this, we have another secondary front that's going to be pulling down over the Appalachian Mountains. This low is going to be moving up very quickly and aggregating over the mid-Atlantic. So earlier runs showed this going a little bit more offshore North Carolina and parking, which meant that we were going to see a higher chance for storms, some of that Gulf moisture being swept up along it. But what's happened is that low is actually going to go a little bit more northeast and cut up towards the mid-Atlantic region. So by this afternoon, this cold front is sitting very close to us. And so with that said, we have high pressure that's ridging in from the west. It's going to be trying to draw in a westerly wind in this direction in time around this low. So we have wraparound flow coming around the low. We have this ridge building in behind and pushing right through these weakening cold fronts. So without a lot of moisture connection from the Gulf of Mexico, the upper level wind steering does not allow for a lot of moisture transport from the direction it's coming from. So what we end up with is eventually we see a west flow. We talked about this yesterday, oscillating between, say, 230 and 235 to 270. But it looks like this, with this low going a little farther northeast, this westerly wind is going to be more have more of a northerly element in it, and we'll get to that in just a second here. I just wanted to kind of show you from the standpoint from the surface map. Here we go with that visible satellite. You can see here we have one last little area of troughing associated ahead of that cold front, which is back here at the mid-state level. This is actually, it caused some gusty winds just a little while ago, even though it was very thin. The Cape was a little bit elevated, but since then the Cape has really shifted offshore. Look at where the instability is. Most of that's out over the Gulf Stream by now. And the 500 millibar, I want to show you this right here, is associated with that low that's going to be pushing out towards the mid-Atlantic. Below it, we see this westerly zonal flow that's going to be lifting up to the area. What that does is it kind of keeps the check from top to bottom in the winds at say 18,000 feet down to the surface. This is not going to be perfect from the upper levels to the lower levels because we're going to have some of that surface influencing, that downslope influencing around the low pressure. And what that means is we'll probably see more of a northerly element. And like I said yesterday, this will be more of an oscillating wind that will be toggling from anywhere from say 260 degrees, maybe up to 290 and even 300. So if we look at the surface map right now for sail flow, we're seeing some variations in wind. Earlier it was south wind and then it went east and there was a lot of variability into it. And now we're seeing sort of a general northwest flow. And this is as the winds are pushing through the cold front activity and trying to settle into the region. When we run all of the models all at one time, we see a lot of consensus, a lot of agreement with a general westerly flow. However, the HRRR and the trim, if you look at these different models, the sail flow WRF and the trim, the TRM is actually an AI model that has been performing fairly well. It takes a combination of all the models and blends them together. It's showing more of a 270, maybe 280, 290 at the start, but it really wants to back those winds from where they are now from northwest back to west. So we got to pay some attention to that. These higher resolution models, the HRRR in the red and the WRF 3 and the purple here, are all sort of hinting at that. So there's a little bit of variability in that westerly wind. Just keep in mind that we're looking at an oscillation up to 30 degrees back and forth. So Ed, we talked about this a little bit before we went live, is how that's going to impact the course, and we'll get to that momentarily. I just want to show the trend down south over Tybee Island, where we see that west-southwest flow. That's where we would have been if that low were a little bit farther east, and now we're seeing that down in the Savannah area. So that's why I believe the winds are going to eventually back more westerly to fall a little bit more in tune with that once that front goes through. Looking at the NAM3 for rains, it looks like a lot of that storm activity earlier passed through, and we have more of a stable zone settling across the state. So we look pretty good. We even look at the HRRR, and this is initializing at 9 a.m. So most of the storms are already off the shore. And then now we have maybe a slight shower or two as this next trough moves through. And then beyond that, going through the day, it looks really good until maybe late afternoon, evening, when we could get a pop-up of some convective activity right along the coast around 5, 6 o'clock p.m. And then that moves through. So in other words, it looks really good today as far as winds. We may keep a little bit of cloud cover, but I think we're going to get some sun breaks. And if the sun does break through, that tends to make the winds back a little bit more westerly until late afternoon. Then we start to see that northwest turn. So a lot of folks that sail here understand that wind really, if it's west in the morning, it generally will start to turn northwest in the afternoon, just based on where how the sun aligns and the heating of the land. And that's generally the rule, is west over to northwest through the day. Real quick, I wanted to show this. So Kevin Rosa and I worked a little bit together. He did a lot of this work and just showing a general visual map. Now, Katie Kurt also has another video we're waiting to get uploaded. She has some really important information to share with us, and that's going to go on the Facebook as well for Charleston Race Week. So we're waiting to go through that video and post it. But for right now, we're just looking at a general, this is experimental only for current lab. And Kevin Rosa has put this together at 9 a.m. We see a general ebb tide. And what we get is, you can see how the sort of a Venturi effect of currents occurs between Sullivan's Island and Morris Island Lighthouse, or the Fort Sumter area. But as we go forward in time, we see that picking up. 10 a.m. You can see the South Channel starting to pick up. The main shipping channels really cranking up by now. And today, really, we're not going to get, I think on our ebb, max ebb is going to be right around 11.5 30, and then we're going to see almost 2 knots of ebb. So that's going to be the case, right? So we can even do a measurement here and pull it. This is a little bit light, like I said, experimental only, but I think this would probably be more like 1.5 knots at this very time. Let's see if I can pull it over. So this is 11 o'clock a.m. Here's 12 o'clock p.m. You can see the vast amount of current along the south side and down the main shifting channel and going through and out through the jetties. So that's just a general visual, something that Kevin Russ is working on. So we appreciate him contributing in that way. Tidal range today, we're going to be seeing right around 5.31 feet and down to 0.3. So only about a 5-foot swing in the tide today, which means that the current's going to be a little bit less. If we go back to our slide deck, look at the tide information. We can see that our max ebb is going to be at 12:28 p.m. today at minus 1.94 knots. That's a general estimate from NOAA. And then we have a slack coming at 3 o'clock. So that's about 3:10 p.m. for slack for today. And then tomorrow. So basically a lot of this race is going to be on an ebb tide. One good tool for the offshore racers. So this is called Corp. Now, this is run out of UNCW. And I've worked with the guy, Chris Alexander, and that team to help maintain these sensors, or not help maintain, but basically if something goes down and the boaters can get pictures to them and they come out and replace them. But they're all online right now. This is a really good tool to have in your belt if you're offshore. It goes out to 18 miles, showing that the significant wave height is about 3.5 feet. Swell height right around 2 feet. So you got 2 to 3 feet out there in general. I believe, when we look at the jetties offshore in the race, go back to the race ring. Out here, when you're lee side of a west wind out in circle 5, just keep in mind that the swell will lay down. You won't get as much chop if the winds are, in the mid to upper teens out there. I think the west wind will probably be, if it's northwest, a little bit more offshore than it would be inshore by a knot or two. But just understand it's going to be a little bit smoother out there. Just keep that in mind. So it won't be so bad on that windward leeward track. Let's see what else we have. I did pull up from Surfline some of the general swell heights. I just picked a point offshore out there, right around 3 feet. And even if we run it all the way through the day, not much change. 3, 7, 8 seconds. I think it might be more like 9 or 10 seconds, to be honest with you, out at this point. So not much change or shift in that. I think I've covered most of the topics here. I'm just going to pull it back to the surface map here. For today, I believe we're going to be seeing eventually when that wind backs a little bit more westerly and fills in that 12 to 16 knot range. It may be a little bit stubborn for a bit until it does once this trough moves through. But a pretty good amount of confidence we're going to see those low to mid teens. We could end up on the lower end of that if the low takes a little bit longer to move off to the northeast. So could be a little bit of a slower start, but I think we're still going to be able to get that 12 to 16 knot range somewhere in that period, where we may even see some gusts up to 20 if it does fill in pretty well, or even stronger than that. So with that said, Ed, any questions or comments to talk about on the course for today?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions, but the this is a unique direction for Charleston, and I think for me, when I look at the race courses, versus the wind direction versus where downtown Charleston is, I think that the wind is going to try to flow out of the rivers, and watching which side the flow is winning from is going to be the important thing for strategy. It's going to be shifty, and so for me that means avoid getting to ley lines too early, because there will be another shift before you get to the weather mark. And with the downwind current, I think that with the wind speed, the wind direction going the same direction as the current, that'll feel like a little more current than yesterday, and that it's the opposite way of how it feels from yesterday. In other words, the current is moving downwind, so you're going to tend to be late for the starting line. You're going to tend to have clog ups at the pin end of the starting line. You're going to tend to not be able to lay the windward mark on starboard tack, and so you got to really take those things into consideration, and pay attention to making sure you stay up current, like we talked about last night. But really just watching that you don't get trapped into a place where you slide into a mark. It also means things like as you go downwind, the leeward mark's gonna come very much faster to you. The ley lines will come up quicker, and you're gonna need to drop kites earlier to be able to turn and have a good rounding at the bottom. So, these things are strategies that you want to talk about on your way out to the course. And that current's going to slowly get stronger after the first race and into the second one on the inside. Outside, I think I'd be interested outside to see if the shore side of things has a little bit more breeze on that outside course. Um, but that's really a question mark in my mind. Typically, as you go towards the shore, you get a bit more breeze on those offshore courses when it blows offshore. But that's something to go have a look at when you get out there. But that inshore course, I think the current's going to be an important factor today to make sure that you don't get yourself in trouble as you have that flow going downwind.
Yeah, good points, Ed. And I think there's another feature out there to be on the watch for is the salinity deviation in the water where the brackish water of the Ashley River meets the Cooper River, and you get this distinct line that comes across it. So I'll go back and just point this out on one of the slides on a max ebb. You see the stronger portion of those currents pulling through the main channel and the south channel. The one thing to look for is this salt line, right? So you have this brackish water meets a little bit saltier water. And on a max ebb, this line will push a little farther out, right? So you got to understand you have a current coming from this direction meeting a current coming from this direction out of the Ashley River. And those 2-point convergence, this area is going to be where you have to really watch. These race circles are right along it, especially during this point in time when you have a max ebb. This line could end up being a little bit more like this today, right? On a stronger tide, it actually is a little bit farther north and really kicks up pretty high. So anything to say about that, Ed? I mean, you've been out there, a lot of folks have been out there and raced there, and you can see that distinct line, right? Like, what does that mean for currents? You were talking yesterday about this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little crab pots and things out there that you can use to help tell you which side of things is going faster. But nothing is better than finding somebody that you trust and starting at opposite ends of the starting area and doing a split upwind. Come back together after 4 minutes or something and see who crosses ahead. And then go down and do that a second time to make sure it wasn't just a shift that did it. But those things can tell you a lot about the current, and I think if you use a buddy on the race course, you can develop a level of confidence on what's going on.
Great. Thank you. So let's see, real quick, I want to just briefly talk about tomorrow and Sunday. I don't want to spend too much time on that because we're really trying to focus on the day-to-day here. Run all the available models. Basically, the high pressure out west is going to sink down into the area, which means for tomorrow, we're looking at more of a northerly fetch. We thought maybe a little bit more northwest and north-northwest, but it looks like we could end up with a rather modest northerly flow early and then bending back towards northwest through the day. That's really driven by this high pressure sinking down across the Ohio Valley and that wraparound flow from the low pressure up off the mid-Atlantic by tomorrow day. Combining with that gives us a northerly flow early that backs through the day as the high pressure pulls down. So that's for Saturday. We'll have to take that by tomorrow morning. Sunday looking a little bit lighter as we shift from a northerly flow back to a west or southwest flow. As the high pressure sinks all the way down, we could end up with a light or modest southwest sea breeze by mid-afternoon. So there's going to be some changes to this one. It's a little far out, a couple days out for Sunday, so don't be too concerned yet. I hope that southwest shift happens a little sooner, but we'll go from there. Any other questions or points, Ed, before we sign off?
No, I think the biggest thing everybody's going to say thank you for is the pushing the rain out of here early, so they don't have to take their spray gear out with them. But looks like it's going to be a beautiful day on the harbor, and I look forward to seeing the racing.
Yep. Just real quick, high air temperatures are going to be in the mid to upper 70s today, so be pretty comfortable, especially if the sun comes out. Can't rule out a lingering, like isolated shower too through late morning, but I don't think we're going to see any convective activity. Looks like the Cape's coming down, so it looks like a pretty good day overall, especially in the afternoon as the sun comes back out. So we'll call it a day from there, and we'll be back tomorrow morning. Just remember, if for some reason you received a link to the Zoom, don't log in with that. Just go to the Facebook Live unless you're Ed, myself, or the Charleston Race Week admin. And that's how we're going to do it. So, Joy, any questions do you see anything coming through Facebook for questions from the audience?
We do not have any questions.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have any feedback or commentary, please put it there. We'll definitely pay attention. And if anything else, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Godspeed. Have a good time out there today, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.